Hello, everyone, and welcome along to your Sunday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett, and I'm your host this evening as we, delve into the big issues that are facing Rangers across the week, and as we head into the final 2 weeks of the transfer window as well. We'll touch a wee bit on the game against St Johnstone yesterday, but we'll be very much focusing on the transfers, the ins and outs, what are the priorities as Rangers go into the final 2 weeks of the transfer window. There are certainly plenty of them. We'll also look at delving a bit deeper into some of the issues that are facing Rangers off the field as well. Joining us to discuss all of that, we've got Reiss Cochrane. How you doing, Reiss?
Yeah, all good. Glad to be in the next round and just kind of soldiering on watching Rangers. It's not really enjoyable, but we've got to do it.
It very much feels like a chore at the moment. I've definitely felt like that at Hampden yesterday watching the St Johnstone game. We're also joined by JB, fresh off his holiday abroad. How you doing, JB?
Yeah. I'm still recovering from Wednesday's pod, to be honest. I was on a right downer after that. Come on these things for therapy, I think. But after yesterday's results, not necessarily performance, but definitely the results has got me smiling again. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, that's always good news to see you smiling, JB. Let's just start with yesterday's game then, and good evening to everyone in the comments. Please do give us your opinion. We'll try and bring up as many as we can as we go throughout the podcast. So make sure you drop any comments and your thoughts on what we're talking about in there, and we'll bring them up. JB, starting with you, just your reflections on the game yesterday. In the end, it was a pretty comfortable 2-0 win.
Yeah, it was, yeah. We were just saying to Reiss off there then, if that second goal by McCausland had come 10-15 minutes earlier, I think it probably would have put a different dimension on the game. But again, they don't like doing things easy, do they? They like to put us through the mill. It just had one of them, their goalkeeper coming up from a corner or something and just doing something absurd just to send it into extra time, which I think would have just been a nightmare for us. But yeah, I thought we looked in control throughout the game. I thought nobody was outstanding. We had one or two players who I thought were really poor, and no doubt we'll get into them individuals as the pod goes on. But yeah, it was good to get some minutes in Danilo's legs. You can see what he's going to give us. Didn't think we had too much in creativity. I think a couple of guys who were given a chance didn't probably grasp it with both hands. And yeah, just pleased to get through, to be honest. And then obviously the draw's then been done today, so no doubt we'll get to talk about the opposition. But yeah, it's just good to win. I think it just changes the whole demeanour, and no doubt we're going to get into the fan behaviour at the end of the game as well. So yeah, no, pleased with the win, and take that.
Yeah, we will absolutely get into talking about the players and the celebrations with the fans at the end of what was a pretty routine and comfortable win in the end. Reiss, as JB says, it's nice to just be back winning some football games. It feels like we're only 3 weeks into the season, but it feels like a bit of a struggles, maybe a bit harsh, but it feels like a bit of a chore already to try and make sure that we win game after game and somehow hope that we'll reach a point of consistency as the season goes on. What were your reflections on the win yesterday? And I guess JB spoke a wee bit about the fact that some of the players didn't grasp their opportunity. We had a completely different forward three from what had played on Tuesday night. What were your thoughts on the game itself and who kind of took their chance?
It was laborious. I thought the whole where's Danilo, get Danilo starting thing has fell off a cliff. I think after yesterday that it's quite obvious that Dessers is probably the better out of the two of them now. Whether Danilo, we were even talking yesterday at the game, talking about Danilo as a number 10, whether he would fit as a number 10 instead of Tom Lawrence, and it kind of gives you two striking options. But I thought yesterday it was all about the result. Betfred last 16, or Premier Sports Cup last 16 now rather. You've just got to get through it. It doesn't matter. We usually get somebody like Albion Rovers or Queen of the South at home, and it's one of the games where the B team get put out, you win 2-0 and you're through to the next round. I think we just got to treat it as that. It's a wee bit of a confidence booster, but you can either get bogged down in how poor the performance was and how arduous a task we made it look, or you just say we'll get we won, we're through, up the road.
Yeah, I think so. JB, I think we first half we'd obviously made those changes. Stellan had come into the midfield. You had Matondo and Cherny out wide, and then made the change through the middle as well. It felt like we still played some nice some nice stuff, but we were encountering the same problems in terms of we were missing the chances that we were creating, and we created a few decent ones as well. And there we looked a bit shaky at the back still. St Johnstone were very much overloading our right side, their left-hand side, and it was working massively. Suter and Tavernier were all over the place for the first 15, 20 minutes or so. What second half, it felt like it changed completely, and I think this was a key part of that. But I think Barron made a huge difference when he came on as well. We just seemed to up the tempo. We just seemed to a bit higher intensity. St Johnstone were starting to tire, and I thought we were much better in the second half. Was that kind of how you assessed it?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, that's kind of what this team does. If you think about it over the last 2 seasons, we don't tend to start games well at all. I'd much prefer us to start, like, unfortunately, like the team from the other side of the city. They seem to come off the blocks absolutely flying, as if their lives depend on it in the first 15 minutes. And the last 2 weeks have just showed rewards as to why you need to have that approach. I think that St Johnstone plays tired into the second half, which you fully understand where we are in the season and stuff. But you'd like to think our levels of fitness, we should be running all over them for the 90 minutes. It didn't feel like that. It felt it in patches. When we move the ball quickly, we're actually quite good. And I've said that all the way through since the start of the season, and even in pre-season. If I think about the goals away in Union Berlin, we look really, really offensive and looked when things are done quickly. However, 9 times out of 10, it's not that. It's side to side. It's letting the opposition get settled. And I just think we've got the personnel to be able to just go full throttle and almost just go through the gears quickly. But for whatever reason, in the last 2 years, I don't know whether it's a player issue, it's a mentality issue, a coaching issue, but whatever it is, we need to snap out of it quickly. Our players seem to look more comfortable on the ball in Europe and against better opposition, and that's been it's been the case for the last few years. And you just think, but I think it must be mindset, because whenever we come up against these stuffy teams, we almost use it as an excuse. Oh, it's 10 men behind the ball. Well, the way to get around that is by moving the ball quickly and breaking the lines. And for whatever reason, there's just no appetite to do that. When was the last time we went into a game 2-0 half time up, and you're almost like, right, let's enjoy the second half. Let's go out and maybe get another couple. Let's go out and get the subs on. Let's get the kids on. All this type of chat, but we're just not putting ourselves in that position. And I heard somebody say on a pod, I'm not sure if it was one of our guys, said, is it because our players aren't good enough to go 2-0 up, as opposed to it is even a mentality issue? Because this group of players have proven that they haven't got that hunger to go and bury teams. Yeah. But it's something we're going to have to become more ruthless. So I don't know whether it's going to be new personnel, whether it's going to be we've got to wait till October or November before we're going to start being more ruthless. But it's got to kick in at some point, because yesterday I had banana skin written all over it, and I'm still worried. But the fact I'd rather be winning and worrying than the other way about. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, I can't really remember the last time that we kind of killed a team off in the first 20 minutes or so. It's potentially that Hearts game in the second half of last season when we just absolutely destroyed them 5-0 at Ibrox. I think was potentially the last time that we did something like that. Reiss, bring up this comment from Doon, who says, what's worrying is we need to be at full tilt to beat SPFL teams by a goal. It does feel a bit like that at the moment. It seems like every game we have to kind of be at our best to try and just get over the line, and then it's on to the next one and you have to do the same again. That's not a sustainable way for us to play, nor is it anywhere near the standards that we expect to our Rangers team when they're playing. Would you agree with that comment?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we have an off day, there's a very high chance, maybe not against, I'm trying to think of teams now actually. No, he's right. I was going to say maybe against the likes of Ross County and stuff like that we might get away with it if we're not full tilt, but actually I just tried to think of one there. I don't think there is many teams in this league that we would get away with having an off day and still beating, especially with the squad depth. Because you look at the bench, and we've seen with the rotations yesterday, the bench strengthened us, but I reckon if we put our first 11 out, the bench is terrible. Guys like Kieran Dowell, and I heard yourself talking about him yesterday as a squad player, I don't think he cuts it as a squad player either. But we really do have to be at full pelt, and when you see guys like Tavernier having significant deterioration in his performance this season and towards the end of last season, your best players are starting to get worse. Guys like Dessers were never good enough. Well, not well, never good enough, but they're never going to be consistently performing well. And unless you've got somebody to step up and take the game by the scruff of the neck, arguably, like I would say, Cantwell does, but obviously, who knows what's going on with that situation now? Then who knows how it's going to go? But it is quite worrying.
Yeah, we'll come on to various aspects that you just spoke about there, Reiss. But just on the Cyril Dessers point, there's a whole plethora of opinions coming in the comments around Cyril Dessers. Cubby Cubster saying Dessers has gained my respect. Mr. Smith going bold and saying Dessers is better than Alfie. CGM 55, Dessers is one miss away from pelters from everyone. And bluebells are blue. Dessers still isn't the answer. We're settling for mediocrity because we have no choice. I think I would be closer to that last point than any of them. I think that Dessers has gained my respect. Dessers is what he is, and he will get his 20 plus goals in a season, but he'll miss about 10 or 15 really positive chances, and I'm not convinced he knows how to hold the football up going by the last two games, and that's really frustrating for us because that's exactly what we need, and that's exactly what we saw Alfredo Morelos offer us season after season. It just gave us that ability to get up the park. Alfredo Morelos was able to keep a full defence occupied all on his own, and we don't have anyone to do that at this moment in time. And I think I think Dessers as a off the bench option is a positive. I think as a starting striker, it continues to be a concern. JB, just a wee word on before we got on to the talking about the celebrations after the game. The title of this podcast is "Can Clement Rebuild Rangers' Relationship with the Support?" The attendance yesterday was below 25,000 from what I've read, which is quite incredible, even for a early round League Cup game. And for me, it's a sign of a culmination of all the issues that we're facing and that disconnect between the fans and the club. We're back there in the next round to play against Dundee. I'd be surprised if there's much more if there's many more fans there than there was against St Johnstone. What's your view? We even saw during last week the Dynamo Kyiv game. There was most of the east stand behind the goal was empty, and that's unheard of for a Rangers European game, especially in recent seasons. What's your opinion on that attendance and the buy-in from the Rangers support at the moment, and why that might be?
Yeah, I think we touched about it on Wednesday as well. I think it's just a perfect storm, to be honest, of all the things that have gone wrong over the summer. So obviously being away from Ibrox, I think, is a night and day issue. I know a hell of a lot of people that aren't going for the fact that it's Hampden. My dad, for example, because you just know that it's going to have to be a mile walk to get to a decent car park space to make sure that we can get back and have the 4.5 hour drive back. There's the option to get the trains through, but who's trusting the trains in the UK in 2024? So I think that's obviously a major factor. The timings as well for people maybe who need to catch the last ferry back to Northern Ireland is a massive factor as well. Let's not underestimate the efforts that these guys go through. A lot of them will probably book hotels because people might say if it was an Old Firm, that ground would have been full. It's slightly different. Well, it is a lot different because people will be booking hotels. People will be coming over for the weekend. The stuff that you do. But this early in the season, you're not going to get people booking hotels and doing everything that you would normally do later on in the season because you kind of know where things lie. But I think it's just that there's just a feeling at the moment hanging over the club that unless the players and the staff ultimately get more out of the players and start seeing positive results and positive performance, I can't foresee that changing until we get back to Ibrox. I do believe once we get back to Ibrox, I think we'll start to stabilise. I think the fact that the CCS will get switched back on will be a massive driver because people, and I know you don't want to promote this, but if people are on the CCS and they don't use their tickets, it's either an empty seat or they're selling it or they are giving it to someone. So I know there's been many games where we, like members of our club, we've probably got about 15, 20 members who've got season tickets. And if they're not up for the game, maybe it's a midweek game against, I don't know, Dundee or something, then they'll send it up to friends and family up the road and they'll use it. Whereas you're not getting that situation this time round because the money's not coming out your bank. So I don't know how many we've got on the CCS. I'd probably estimate probably about 20,000, I would think. given the demand that there is for tickets, just in general, because if you've got that box ticked, it's helping you with your MyJS points. So I think all of these things coming at once, performance off the field, Ibrox, and everything else, I think that is what's driving the behaviour. And until we get back home, I think we're going to have to just grin and bear it and just hope that we're still in with a fighting chance with things, whether that be cup competitions in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard from someone that it looks like it's going to be Hibs at home at the end of September will be our last game at Hampden as it stands, and that'll be very welcome. I think there's an international break straight after that as well, which then takes us to the middle of October, and we'll be at home following that, and we'll be back at Ibrox. So that will be more than welcome, and because it's a real hindrance for us at the moment in terms of what fans.
Sorry, Craig, just to jump in there as well. That's the first week of Europe, if my dates are correct, after that next cup game. So there's a chance they're going to be playing on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're going to be on the Thursday, as we know. So our game will probably most likely get moved to the Sunday, and then there'll be the Saturday, which brings again its own set of complications. But 5:30 on a Saturday night is an absolute farce anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what we've seen in the comments here. Stephen Sistrunk says 5:45 was not a good time. Mr. Smith says Hampden thing is overblown. It's a horrible stadium. The view is terrible. I can attest that my season ticket view is absolutely horrendous. Robert Anderson says, we'll bring that one up in a second. Paul McGorrigle says, no, it's because it's at Hampden and fans have to pay for it. Reiss, coming to you, first of all, on the celebrations then. I think I was at the game with Kyle for the podcast, and I tweeted as it was happening that I saw the players lining up arm in arm, and I hadn't heard what Philippe Clement had said in his press conference at that point because he hadn't been in yet. He was obviously going over to join in the celebrations at that point. But when the players all sort of lined up in front of the Union Bears and they stood there clapping, you're like, okay, that's fine. That they're thanking the fans and that's all good. I think obviously when they started jumping along with the Union Bears to whatever song they were singing, that's when I felt like it was a bit of a strange turn and almost a wee bit of an embarrassing turn. And I sort of tweeted something along those lines in terms of like, I felt it was quite a staged PR move almost to try and find a way to bring the fans and the team closer together. A whole load of people came back to me and was like, no, that's not the case. We're fully on board with this. Whatever small advantage we can get in terms of bringing that togetherness back is all good. Some others were saying it was quite embarrassing actually, and would rather we didn't do it. What was your view of it?
I think, to be honest with you, and this might be unpopular, I think it's just the players thanking the one constant and the support. Home and away, domestic, Europe, Union Bears will be there. They're there in numbers. They'll stay to the end. Everybody else in Hampden had evacuated yesterday. The place was empty. That's the one group in that stadium that will back you for the minute 1 to minute 90. They might moan, groan, whatever happens, but it's the one constant in our support that you can rely on to back the team, support the players, back the manager, make a bit of an atmosphere and try and help them to a result. The rest of the stadium, absolutely not. There's a misplaced pass and somebody will moan. We'll sit for the other 89 minutes staying silent. That doesn't help the players. The Union Bears help the players. The atmosphere helps the players. That's not happening at Hampden. It rarely happens with the rest of Ibrox. So it doesn't surprise me that that's the one group they want to go over and thank. And if they want to get involved in it, then they get involved in it. It just means we'll probably have another 3 injuries in the table just for them jumping up and down.
I get why they went over to that section of fans. I don't think that's a bit that I'm contesting. I think when they were over there and they were all clapping and things like that, that was fine. I think it was more the bouncing about after what was a sort of routine cup win that you would expect to win that kind of not irked me a bit, but just kind of felt a bit off. Was that? What do you think of that?
I get that. I just think it's a bit of a make or break point now. I think, like you said, it is a bit of a PR move, trying to get people back on side, trying to show that there's still a bit of a connection there, because during the week there would have been questions asked to that team at half time at the weekend. We were thinking, if we get put out of this cup, you can put out a Champions League and put out a cup, managers have been sacked for less. So it doesn't surprise me that he's trying to build that connection, try to show maybe upstairs that, listen, these guys still back us and I'm part of this here. Or they're just trying to build some sort of relationship up with the fans to try and get any sort of momentum they can. Marginal gains, it might be.
Yeah, I don't think Philippe Clement's getting sacked anytime soon, no matter what results are happening, given how he signed his new contract. JB, what was your view of it? A couple of comments coming in, RFC 72 saying it's embarrassing, but you can see why Clement's done it. Paul McGorrigle saying no problem with the team thanking the fans. Fans simply just want to moan about anything. Hugo Bayer saying I've no problem with celebrations. Our very own Tommy McIntyre saying get the desire to celebrate, but the optics of the players bouncing about at this stage was a tad cringe. Hadn't even reached a final. What was your view of it?
Well, I think one thing for certain, it just probably sums the Rangers fans up in that no one's going to agree on anything. So I think you can see both sides of it, can't you? I mean, I remember Jurgen Klopp coming in for a load of bad treatments down here. The Everton fans royally took the piss when they had a 2-2 draw against West Brom at home. I think it was just before Christmas or just after Christmas in his first season. And everyone was like, who's this fella here? Do you know what I mean? Celebrating draws against West Brom. But he didn't do too bad. Now I get it's completely different spectrums, but I think I think they was just wanted to get that little bit of togetherness back, because everything just feels so disjointed all the way from the fans to the players to the management team to the board. Everything just feels total disconnected. So if that is a small step in the right direction, I think that Reiss said a small percentage, then I'm all for it. And I tell you one thing I'd be doing, right, and I don't know whether it's just the Union Bears like to have that space behind the goal, but I'd be putting them on the halfway line against Dundee. Before the tickets get sold or before they go out anywhere, I'd have them front and centre, halfway line, and let them create an atmosphere from there. Because with all due respect to them, I mean, you could hear them for the full 90 minutes. Yesterday, and again, I think to touch on Reiss's point, I think the stuff they do inside the stadium, I think is fantastic. Some of the visuals they've provided over the years for us, and some of the and the way they do back the team for 90 minutes, I think we should get them front and centre, because we're going to need these little extra percentages. And if we can get them on the halfway line, however many of them is there, and just get everybody bunched in there. I know it's been used, the phrase mothballing has been used in the past. However, we are where we are. Let's not kid ourselves that everything's rosy. Let's make the best of what is a shit situation. But yeah, I can see both sides of it. I can see why the younger clientele like Reiss will be fully up for it. But the Rangers guys are probably a bit more. They'd have been happy with just a little clap and a move around. But let's see how the players respond next week against Ross County. If we come out flying, they come out bouncing, and the fans have got that extra 5-10%, then I'm all aboard.
Yeah, they do bring a lot when it's in the stadium. I don't think we can bypass what happened before the game yesterday, which was absolutely shocking. Hopefully, the perpetrators that were clearly visible on video are caught by the relevant authorities and dealt with, because that's not anything that we want to see associated with Rangers. Just a few other comments on the celebrations before we sort of move on. Daz says, cringe fest, I felt. Dune says, in Europe, especially Germany, the players go to the fans after every game. They clap them if they lose and they celebrate with them if they win. It's a good thing. I absolutely agree with that. See if it from now on they do it every single game forevermore. Absolutely on board with it, and just keep doing it. But don't do it as a token gesture, or don't do it as a one-off. And if you're going to do it as a one-off, do it after a big win. Don't do it after a second round win against St Johnstone. The Scotty says something similar. He says, I'd much rather they did those celebrations after winning trophies. CGM 55 says, sorry, it's not a good look. Go over in a pod, but that's it. It's definitely one that seems to have split opinion amongst the fans, which is quite interesting. So we want to watch as we go forward, and it'll be interesting to see if we see it as we move through the different games, and if we beat Ross County next week, if they're over there again. So that'll be an interesting one. Right, we're 2 weeks away from the transfer window closing. We started off at a rate of knots, signing all of the promising young players that we could, and it's been very quiet and very disappointing since then. Robin Proper and Václav Černý, probably the only two incomings that you think are actually going to make a real impact on the first team, and it's a first team that's much weaker than what we had at the end of last season, and we knew that team needed a full rebuild. In terms of the transfers ins and outs, Philippe Clement said, or he reiterated in his pre-match press conference ahead of the weekend, that there needs to be outs before there's going to be any ins. There's not really been any links happening with any of our players, but in turn, there's no links happening with any other team's players. Reiss, what's your mood as we go into the final 2 weeks of the transfer window, and where do you think the priorities lie for us?
There's obviously hope there, but I think, to be honest, it's been reiterated that many times, and we've heard it that many times. You've probably spoke to that many other Rangers fans about it, that it's more just acceptance, that we've not got money to buy anybody. Until we ship somebody, you can't really expect much to come in. Now, I don't think it's no daft to suggest that there'll be deals lined up if and when we do move players on. If we'll be able to start moving with players that we've already made contact with and stuff like that, made contact with clubs. But at the minute, it's just kind of resignation to the fact that we might just be stuck with this, and it's absolutely rotten. But it might just be the way it is. Hopefully, I think our wingers need to improve, especially with Cortez being injured. I don't think our wingers stand out for Hearts or Kilmarnock. Do you know what I mean? I really don't think that with a front three the way we've got it now. I can't remember when it was. It must have been the Hearts game or something. But I looked at front four: Dessels, Tom Lawrence, Scott Wright, and it must have been Cortez, and thought that is absolutely woeful. Even in Europa League, that's not getting out of Europa League group. That is woeful. Now that Cortez has dropped out, it's even worse. Czerny might do a job, but even now, I think we really need to improve. The midfield looks all right. I think barring Diamandi Sterling could probably do you the season. Got a bit of depth there. But that's where you need to move players out, and other positions are where we need to move players in.
Yeah, I think Václav Czerny is shown in fits and starts what he can offer us. But yesterday, I thought he was absolutely terrible for the game. He was giving the ball away a lot. He was struggling to make any impact. And when he was trying to go past his man, he was either getting past him, but then having to chop back onto his left foot to do anything, or he was losing the ball. I thought he really struggled yesterday, and while he's shown some early promise, I think there's improvement to be made there. Maybe being a bit harsh on him since he was at the Euros and it's probably had less of a pre-season. I thought him and James Tavernier worked quite well going forward with each other. Defensively, still question marks over that, but going forward. And I thought actually for the first time, Hefty looked like a decent partner from Matondo when he was out wide, and they seemed to be linking up well. I don't think Matondo's kind of had that relationship with anyone so far, so that was at least encouraging, although Matondo might come into the next question that I'm going to come to you with. JB, obviously Fluke Clement said that there's several players that have been told weeks and weeks ago that they weren't in the plans for this season, and to effectively go and find themselves another club. Who do you think he was talking about? I think the obvious ones are Hadji. I'd take a guess that obviously Todd Cantwell came forward himself and said that he wanted to find a new club. I'd imagine that Rabbi Matondo was probably in there, and Ben Davies would be another one that I think potentially. Do you think it's those four? Are there any others that stick out that might have been in that group? I'm sure there's plenty that other Rangers fans would suggest should be in that list.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably go through them. It'd be easy to say you'd keep in it, if I'm being perfectly honest, where we are. I mean, I think at the start of the window, Tavernier seemed like a dead set to get out the door. I don't think he'd pass a medical. I think I said this on Wednesday. I don't think he'd be fit enough to pass a medical. You can see, I don't know whether it's his. I mean, I read it was his hips that he rested in the summer. He was an option for surgery or something. He can't run. And his striking of the ball, he had 2 or 3 good chances good chances by his standards. And I think that's the problem with Tavernier, is we're comparing him to peak Tavernier, and unfortunately, it's not even it's a shadow of that. You look at his contribution, unfortunately, since the start of the season, is what you'd expect from a rookie, Adam Devine type, and I just don't. He just looks really poor, really weak. There was an instance in the first half where there was a chance for him to actually go through. I know it was in the box, but you go through the defender, you take the ball, the man, and everything, and the guy just went past him as if he wasn't there, and that's petrifying, because I think that would have been one that we've probably eyeballed. You know what? We could get a little bit of money for him that we could recycle. no one's paying anything for him unless Transon's feeling generous. Ben Davies, I think we've touched on. Absolutely no time for him. He's in the wrong movie. You can see in Europe he's actually looked okay in patches, because I think again a little bit more time on the ball. I think about his two best performance for us were probably Betis home and away. I think he scored in the Betis game at home, and then away from home he was solid enough. Cantwell, you've spoke about. Hadji, you've spoke about. Them two, I think, are victims of their wages. From reading between the lines with Clement as well, I think it's both of them situations have been really poorly managed. I think from the outside looking in, now I get agents talk, and maybe I'm playing a bit of football manager here, but the way that situation has just been horrendous, because it's just almost said, we want to get these guys off the wage bill, potentially don't even give us a fee. And Clement mentioned it in every press conference that we need to recycle wages. Yet we get it. I'd rather that type of conversation that was coming from the chairman or was coming from Niels Koppen. I'd rather he done a type of interview to say, right, this is the live situation. The fan advisory board, I think that we're due to hear from them. I know Koppen went in and had a session with them last time. It'd be interesting to see if they, because everything was dead exciting then when they had that first meeting, but now it'd be interesting to see what comes off the back of that, to see whether, again, are they challenging that. I'd like to think they are, having it a few pods in terms of interviews that they've done. They seem like really good guys and seem like they've obviously got the club's best interest at heart, but we need to be challenging the board, and if that's our mechanism to do that, then we need to do it. I think Hadji you've touched on, and Dessers is one you'd want out the door, because I think he's a number 2 Rangers striker. However, there's no number 1 Rangers striker, so I think we've just got to grin and bear it. Danilo, I thought we were a bit harsh. I think there's been a few harsh comments on Danilo.
I think his price tag works against him. I think the fact we paid £6 million for him, you're expecting a lot, but we've not quite managed to see that yet.
No, not at all. There was one little instance that people get a chance. I'd encourage them to go back and watch the highlights again. A couple of minutes into the highlight, Danilo comes short and plays a simple ball inside. The ball then ends up out wide, and he sprints into the box to try and get. Now, I don't think the chance actually fell to him; it fell to someone else. But he done like this little stupid run. It was like the run that you used to compare Cifuentes to, Reiss. But it was a little sprint into the box, and he had 5 yards of space. And that is the exact movement that we need from a Rangers centre forward, to move the ball quickly, similar to what Dess has done away in Kiev, well, not Kiev, but in Poland, where he's passed, he's moved, he's got into the box. We are only going to win things through clever movement, and we need that type of player. And I think he has got that in his locker. It's just whether it's going to be quick enough. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously your outgoings. I think did you mention Dahl? Again, absolute waste of a jersey. I think Tom Lawrence at the start of pre-season, I think we'd have all been happy to see the back of him. I'd have no concerns if somebody came in with an offer for Ridvan. Again, we're not going to be able to punt him now because of the fact that he's injured. And with all due respect, I know there's been linked today with, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, but it sounds like a Paul Manborna Barisic, but a left back who's had spells with Hadrick Split and Lille, and I think he's playing in Serie B at the moment. I've been linked with him on loan. Are you going to try and say his name?
Domagoj Bradaric.
Oh yeah, you've nailed it. You don't want to hear the Scouse version of that, but yes, but he's. But again, he could have been a sellable asset, but no one's going to touch him because again, injury prone. So yeah, as I say, I'm looking through the list in terms of players I'd be really keen not to lose before the end of the window. But you're looking at 3s and 4s as opposed to 5s, 6s, 7s, which is scandalous that we've got let ourselves get into this position. But we are where we are. We've just got to back what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of people's thoughts on a lot of the same names coming through when people are putting in. Luke Gibson, 97. I'd feel so much better if Davies, Dow, Matondo were all moved on. RFC, 72. Davies, Dow, Matondo, Hadji, Cantwell, Devine. Bluebells are blue. He's gone for the who we keeping rather than who's leaving, thankfully, with that list. So Jack Butland, Sterling, Proper, Cherney, Barron, Diomande. If Ridvan wasn't made of biscuits, I'd say keep him as well. Literally everyone else we need to upgrade, in my opinion. And CGM 55 says Davies, King, Dow, Lawrence, Cantwell, Matondo, Devine, Hadji, and Wright. Yeah, Scott Wright's not made too many lists there so far, but he's definitely one that I would not mind seeing head out the door this summer.
I think that's because we forgot about him, as opposed to thought he's number one to get out the door. To be honest, yeah, I always laugh when I see Hadji Wright. The boy who's ended up at Coventry is doing quite well.
What could have been? Yeah, what could have been?
What could have been? Yeah.
Reiss, I wanted to bring up this point by Oasis Willie, who says if no one wants to buy our players, we're in trouble. I think that's the main issue that we're running into at this moment in time, is that there's not that interest there, and despite Lewis Enrique trying to punt Cantwell over Instagram and all of that sort of stuff, I assume there's many routes that agents are using to try and create interest in their players, but it just doesn't seem to be there. We've obviously heard that the link between Tavernier and Trabzonspor, that seems to have died. Hadji and Fiorentina was another one that seems to have kind of disappeared. Cantwell has been linked with absolutely no one, which is quite a surprise. Redvan's consistently linked with Turkey, but he's already said he doesn't really want to go back there. Matondo in Leeds for a whole 2 hours during the week there was a wee bit of excitement, but it's the fact that there doesn't seem to be anyone particularly interested in our players, and not to be too harsh, but you can understand why if they're looking at sort of performances last season.
Yeah, 100%. I think towards the end of last season, we started to see Clement getting a tune out of this squad. We all knew it was a rotten squad, but he was getting a tune out of it. Now, they seem to be reverting back to type. We don't know whether we're getting a tune out of them. But with half of our players, whether you look at the start of last season or you do a character dig on guys like Cantwell, nobody's giving you a great reference. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's going to be like, he works hard, he's quiet, he does whatever, just minds his own business. The way Barron was when he came in, Barron was like, I don't pay much attention to social media, I just kind of play football, whatever. Cantwell's the opposite. You ask somebody about Cantwell and they'll say, he's a good player, but he's a bit of a headache. Do you know what I mean? He's going to be annoying in terms of social media. He's going to have a moan and a groan at times. He'll post stuff well out of context. He'll get beat, but he'll have a highlight reel up. Stuff like that. Like, that'll put people off. And none of these players have been good enough. Did Scott Wright get a game for Kilmarnock ahead of Armstrong? And who's the other one they've got? Matthew Kennedy?
You're obsessed with Kilmarnock and Hearts.
I'm telling you, like, our squad is terrible. Like, Scott Wright doesn't get a game ahead of the two. Who else have you got? Matondo, his wages will put you off. Ben Davies, wages will put you off. I think we'd be better off just saying to teams, listen, we'll pay, say, $5,000 of their wages for a year if you agree to pay a transfer fee. The way it was rumoured with Cifuentes, that we were paying part of his wages, but there was an obligation to buy at the end of the year on a loan. I think that would be much better, but we'll wait and see. And yeah, it's just got to hope that people bite. Do you know what I mean? We've got to have constant dialogue with other clubs that it could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. JB, I think there's two scenarios here that are both probably as concerning as each other. One is that no one buys these players. This is it for the season. You've got the sort of disconnect between Cantwell and the rest of the team, but he's still got to hang around. I see Reiss is left us there. His camera was having a bit of trouble, so hopefully he comes back. But you've potentially got Cantwell hanging around, but in the B team, I think you've got to try and find a way to integrate him back into the first team if that's the case. But I don't know how you do that, and I don't know if the fans will take him either. The other scenario, I think, is that a lot of these players go in the last day or two of the transfer window, and we just don't have enough time to replace them. Neither scenario is ideal, is it?
No, not at all. Time is not on our side, unfortunately. I mean, I did have some levels of sympathy for the club in the fact that obviously we start our season so much earlier than everybody else. So therefore, I was hoping that maybe once the Euros had settled down, you were then going to start to see signings coming in. Once the merry-go-round of transfers, it seems to have been, as much as the summer seemed long from the Euros finishing to the start of the season, it seemed to just go like that. So I think we've been a victim of not being prepared, but I also think the market's not prepared. If you look at a lot of Premier League clubs, if you look at Liverpool, I don't think they brought in one player. Now, that's just not unheard of for a team in the Premier League, never mind a team the size of that. I think, again, Everton, I think obviously they've got their own financial challenges. They've still got out and spent around 30 odd million on players, albeit they brought 50 million in for Onana. So I think in terms of the clubs doing business, even them across the road, they're sitting on billions and billions of pounds if reports are true. But again, all they've brought in is they really brought a guy who couldn't get a game for Norwich. So I think it's almost a case of we need to do something drastic. I don't know what that's going to look and feel like. I think the on-the-field performances probably haven't helped our recruitment strategy, because if you're a player looking at our situation at the moment, you're looking at half-filled stadiums, you're looking at performances, you're going to go, do I really want to put myself in that situation? You just got to hope that we can identify a handful of players that are really hungry and that they want to come in and they want to try and showcase what they've got and what they can do. There's definitely a profile that we're looking at. So again, the two lads who we've mentioned today, one of the lads you've mentioned there, the left back from Croatia. Again, young. He's obviously played for a couple of decent sized clubs. And then there's obviously the boy from Leverkusen. You're going to try and pronounce his name for me.
Gustavo Puerta, I think. I think
Puerta,
he was linked with Brøndby, wasn't he? And then that seems to have gone a bit quiet. But he's one of the most promising kind of young midfielders there is in the Bundesliga. I think he's only 20.
Yeah, I think he was part of that. Was it the Copa America under-20s? He was the captain. That no doubt Cortez came through, so no doubt there's probably agents playing a little game there, and hopefully Copland's got their finger on the pulse with someone like that. But obviously there was the guys we were linked with at the start of the window as well, like Damian Garcia. I think that was one that a lot of the Rangers fans fancied. He still hasn't signed a new contract. That's now another couple of months on. So what does that look and feel like? The SEMA stuff just won't go away. It wouldn't surprise me to hopefully maybe see SEMA sign a new contract with Brighton and then come out straight back out on loan. I think that's the ideal situation. I think if we'd have made the Champions League, that could have been a purchase option, because he's someone that we desperately need, I think. And what I mean by that, people might go, he's got his own injury records and what did he win last year? That what he can do is he can play right, left and centre, and he's just a completely different profile. He's quick, he's strong. It's not until you watch, and again, don't judge a player on YouTube. If you watch his highlight reel from last year, some of the goals he scored, man, were unbelievable. Hibs at home, where he just absolutely roasted them down the right-hand side, put it into the far corner. The one where he was leading the line and it hit his shoulder and he spun and volleyed it into the top corner. Hearts away, so scores from corners, physical presence from corners, both boxes. So, and he knows the club, which I think is massive. Not saying we should go back and bring back ex-players, but he's someone that I think, just for where we are right now, I think ticks a hell of a lot of boxes for us for minimal risk. I
think Abdul Asima is one that I was kind of on the fence about whether he should come back or whether he shouldn't. In the current state we're in, absolutely, I would bring Abdul Asima back if we could, pretty much at any price, just because of the impact he has. And I got frustrated with him last year because he would do the standard young winger thing of dribble the ball out of the park half the time, but the other half of the time he's making a real impact for our team, and the pace he had as well just had put the fear into opposition defenders. And I think that's we need players of that quality, and we were thinking we were going to upgrade on them this summer, and we've just not had that opportunity. We've mentioned a couple of the players we've been linked with. Domagoj Bradaric, the left back at Salernitana, just now, 24 years old, started 30 games last season, so seems to be a regular for them, and has also played for the Croatia national team. There's one comment here from Alexander Marshall saying, not another Croatian fullback, I'll just go over Borna, which I think is fair enough. I'm not quite sure I'm over Borna yet, to be honest. But I think the other one was Gustavo Puerta, who is the Leverkusen defensive midfielder that JB spoke about as well there. Are you surprised that left back is a priority? It seems to be one that we're linked with, especially when I know there's been injury to Ridvan, but even after that, Clement came out and said, we've got other areas that we need to focus on, and he spoke at Robbie Fraser as well, and the fact that he can fill in there, and obviously Hefty can play there, although I've quite liked him when he's playing in that forward sort of left winger role. He's surprised that left back's in there. I think for me, there's bigger priority areas than that to be looking at. If we sign a left back but don't sign a striker, I'm not sure I will be too happy.
Yeah, 100%. I think, see, to be honest though, the kind of theme of the summer's been any rumours that came out a while before anything's even concrete tend to be just nonsense. I think that most of the signings we've had this year have come out of far afield. They've came from nowhere. Typically not started in Scotland. I know this one's Nicolo Shearer, but I don't really believe it, to be totally honest with you. You've got Ridvan, you've got Hefty, and you've got Robbie Fraser's just signed a new deal as well. I honestly don't think there's a chance this happens. I don't believe it whatsoever. I think we maybe made contact in January or something, and an agent said, "Oh, Rangers are interested." That's probably where it came from. Trying to get his name out there, try to get it circulated. But definitely, I think other areas will be a priority. They've got to be. See if like wingers aren't upgraded by now. Maybe even a centre half if you can ship Ben Davies. I was going to say a striker, but you get two up there that'll be eating up wages, and they're both honking. So I don't know. It's got to be other areas. It's definitely not left back. Left back and goalkeeper are the two areas I think we're sorted in there now. Others, there's definitely room for improvement probably everywhere. And just on Sima, when we were speaking about it there, do you think we're in a bit of a similar situation with Sima where the same way we were with Tillman the season before, with a player on loan, he was good, but you're like, oh, would you pay that for him? Would you not pay that for him? Then the teams get drastically worse and you've went, oh, if they'd take him back in a heartbeat. It was the exact same with Tillman last year. It's the same with Sima this year. And I think we've just got to do it before he goes elsewhere.
Yeah, I just don't think either we don't have the money to do it or the board's new strategy, which I fully back the board's new strategy, to be honest, in terms of trying to get rid of that £10 million loss we're making before any player trading. That has we want Rangers to be a financially stable club. We can't just keep powering ahead with that one. I think the difficulty is, and where the blame goes on to the board, is that they've signed off all of that spending over the last 2 to 3 seasons, and look where it's put us. If they got to this position and they had a fairly solid squad and a team that was playing well, but they couldn't quite spend this summer to improve it, then you'd be like, right, okay, I understand what they're trying to do. I think trying to do that in this moment when this is the worst possible squad we've had for a while, and there's been a lot of bad Rangers squads in recent memory, is quite is so frustrating. And I think that's where a lot of the board haven't helped themselves in that way. And we'll come on to talk about the link to the new CEO and how important that is in terms of the day-to-day running, but it really hasn't helped us, and I'm just not convinced they'd be willing to spend, even if you got it down to 3.5-4 million for Sima with a sell on. I'm not sure they'd be willing to spend that amount of money just to get it done. JB, I think what's concerned me most, we've obviously spoken about 2 links that are there, but those are the only 2 that I've heard. Really, that the lack of those links and the lack of rumours is a real concern for me. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, very much so. I think to Reiss's point there, you'd rather it was just linked today, signed tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I think that'd be the best way, because if it's not that, it means they've probably been punted here, there, and everywhere. The amount of players that you hear linked with Rangers and Celtic, I'd love to know how many of them over the years have actually signed. You could probably, Nacho Novo is probably the only one that's fell into that category where they've had a choice between 2 clubs, and that didn't work out too bad. But I think we need to do something over the next couple of weeks. I've just got this horrible fear that we're going to go into the Old Firm game and we're going to go into it with what we've got right now, which is petrifying. At least try and get 1 or 2 in early this week, with a view to getting some minutes at next Saturday. And then they've got 2 weeks together to try and settle in. Unless Igamani's going to be the man. I did think there might have been a little curveball that he might have been on the bench yesterday, just as a little bit of a, oh God, right? And even if he got the last 5.
I think that is a bit of a strange one in terms of, like, if you're going to, if he's on the bench yesterday, and fair enough, the game went the way it did and we didn't get a second goal till later on, so he stays on the bench, that's okay. Yeah. But at least you think he would at least be, all right, here's 10 minutes in a League Cup tie that we're going through and here we go. He's training with the first team now, which seems to be an improvement from where he was a couple of weeks ago. But it's I think when we're so short up front, it is a concern, and he's obviously been bought with the future in mind, and he's been bought with give him 6 months and he won't play a game in the first 6 months, and then we'll start to bed him in there. The squad's just in a position where that's not that's not possible. And you look at some of the strikers we've been linked with, that are going elsewhere for less money than we were linked with them for, and you're thinking, right, were we actually going to spend any money here? CGM 55 makes a fair point there, saying Igamani hasn't even played for the B team.
That's where I'm really surprised that he hasn't had a run out in there. At the end of the day, he hasn't kicked the ball since April. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's scandalous, that the fact that he wasn't ready to feature now. If he wasn't ready now, we should have bought him and loaned him straight back to the club he was at, if he was one that we couldn't afford to let get away, and then maybe bring him in January and say, right, you stay where you are, get another 6 months under your belt. He's only played like 20 odd games, hasn't he, I think, in the top flight of Moroccan football. So we shouldn't be pinning our hopes on him, but who knows, he might do a bit. I don't know if you guys remember Moses Ashikodi. Remember he made his debut at Park. I think it was his only appearance. Came off the bench with 5 minutes to go. Going back some years there. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think we just need to get the ball rolling this week. And I think, you know what, it'll give us all a little lift as well. I think Cherny coming in give us all a little lift. Albeit he was off the ball yesterday. I think we've got to expect that with him. He is one. I don't want to use the Clement phrase of wait till October, November. He might be one after the international break that we might see maybe move up the levels a little bit. But he's a winger at the end of the day, so you've got to expect probably three out of 7 games. He's probably going to just be a bit, but then the other games he's actually going to give you that couple of little bit moments of quality, which he showed that he's definitely got within the locker. So. I did find it. I was looking forward yesterday to seeing how him and Danilo would link up, because I was proactively watching for it. There was a few times where you seen Danilo go one way and then burst into an area, but Cherny was just overcooking the pass.
Yeah.
So let's hope whatever's getting done on the training ground to get them two linking up, because if you watch the way they linked up with 20, it was super impressive. Albeit it was a few years ago now. So. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, but hopefully one that we're going to be busy in.
Yeah, I'll just bring up this comment from Alexander Marshall, who's very optimistic and says, lads, what happens if somehow we beat Celtic? Does the whole narrative around the team then change? He says, no, I've not been drinking. I don't think the narrative would change. I think it would be we got out of jail there with that one, but we're still nowhere near the level we need to be. I think some fans, we've spoken about it so much in terms of in the summer, everyone was kind of mentally preparing themselves for, right, we're not going to be as much of a challenger as we expect ourselves to be most seasons. We're not, the squad isn't going to be as good. We don't have the money there to invest in it, and there was already a bit of a gap there when you look at the end of last season. We've spoken about how that's fine for people to say, but when it comes to seeing the reality of it, it's quite different, and I think that's what we're seeing just now. I do have a worry as we go towards that first Old Firm game as to how this team's going to stand up to that. It'll be really interesting to see how that happens. But I think the sooner we're back at Ibrox, the better. I think it just has a completely different feel. I think it will give the fans a bit of a boost doing that, and then hopefully that translates into backing of the team. Let's just have a bit of, I guess, an update or give our thoughts on some of the things that we think are impacting us. And to be honest, I said to Tommy earlier in the week, I've never known a football club to create as much of a disadvantage by themselves as they go into a new season. I feel like we've just shot ourselves in the foot, left, right, and centre. And it's not just been this summer, to be fair. It's been quite a while, but hopefully the introduction of the new CEO Reiss in the next few weeks will at least start to steady the ship in the longer term. He looks like he's coming with decent credentials. He's currently vice chairman at St Mirren. He is CEO of a charity in Paisley called the Kibble, who have been growing and doing loads of great community work there. I've seen a few people saying he's from his background, and then he's coming straight into Rangers, who are a significantly bigger business than he's ever been chief exec for, or even a similar role for in his previous work history is such a big step, and it seems a risk. And people saying, oh, he knows John Bennett, so that's how he's getting the job. It's just an old pals act. What your St Mirren fans seem really disappointed to be losing him and saying he's going to be a big loss. It's always hard to work out with these kind of guys what it's going to be like. But what was your reaction when you heard the kind of credentials he had when we were linked with him?
So to be honest, I don't really know. I think it's the same with the guy at Hearts, the guy McKinley. You're never really going to know. I think you've got to be in and around those circles to know who's got pedigree, who's not, who's doing a job right, who's not, because it's like everything. Every industry's got a reputation. Everybody gathers a reputation. If you're doing something well, you're doing something poorly, you'll be found out for it, or you'll be praised for whatever you're doing right. So I think it's just one of those ones where I personally don't feel anywhere near qualified to comment on this guy's business acumen or his ability to be a CEO at Rangers. So if he comes in, and we wish him all the best and hope he's good at it. But we need to wait and see. I didn't expect Bisgrove to get it when he was commercial director, and I think he's probably been the most progressive chairman we've had in a while. So just got to wait and see when the guy comes in. But I wouldn't start slating him before he comes in the door. Anybody claiming it's an old pals act, I think that's the same people that were claiming Bennett's brother was a shoe-in for it. I think it's people just making up nonsense for the sake of moaning.
Yeah, I think you've not sat on the fence there, Reiss. So that's fair enough. JB, I think when it comes to, fair enough, we are looking at it from we can only tell on paper what he's done beforehand and that side of things. How Bisgrove obviously left for Saudi Arabia start of the summer, probably before that. Was it May time that he left? How important is it that we get that person in role as soon as possible and they start to make the necessary changes internally to make sure that we're moving towards functioning properly as a football club again?
Yeah, I think I said the same on Wednesday, but can he play right back? That's probably the big question. No, I think he's the whole thing needs sort of done it. Do you know what I mean? From start to finish. We scream of Man United of Scotland, do you know, like in terms of just the way that they've been ran for the last few years and the signings and players that they can't get rid of, players on bloated wages, youth academy pretty much non-existent, behind the scenes all over the place, always getting good sponsorship because of the size of the club and stuff, but just decision making seems absolutely all over the shop. So again, similar to Reiss in terms of being able to comment of any personnel, I would like to see us doing something a bit bold, something a little bit out there. But are we in a position that we can actually do that? Obviously, Bisgrove come with a really good reputation. I think did we take him from UEFA? I think he was certainly where he was in that field, or might have been FIFA. And came in, and for all of his faults, I think he had some absolute shockers. Obviously, the Australia debacle and a few other shockers, and probably links to the ground. The work's going on at Ibrox and stuff. I know people easily point the finger at him now that he's not there. But I don't know whether I'd like to see something a little bit more ambitious, a little bit more outside the box. But I just don't know whether that's because of where we are as fans, because we're clueless at the end of the day. At the end of the day, he's going to be the cheap option. Let's have it right. If we'd have gone with somebody with ambition, or we'd gone to take somebody, because I heard somebody said go and get Christian Perslow, for example. I think that name was mentioned because he could go anywhere in the world, that fella, and there's probably a catalogue of people. If you think about every single club wants someone in that role. So maybe bringing somebody in that knows Scottish football, knows how we tick, know how things work, might be just what we need. And again, similar to Reiss, I don't think it will be an old pals act, because we can't afford to get decisions like this wrong anymore. We've got to start running things properly. It sounds as if we're going to go through a bit of short-term pain, more short-term pain, as you might add, with the wages piece, because we're going to slash the wages. And I think you made the point, Craig, about trying to slash that 10 million loss per year. So, yeah, I think we just got it. Whoever comes in, we're going to have to just back him and just hope that it is the right decision. I don't think any fans group podcasts that are right and are going to impact the decision making in it. I actually watched a really fascinating interview with Tim Cahill the other day, and he's doing a hell of a lot of work in terms of business and working with the Qatar FA and the Australian FA and stuff. And I thought, wouldn't it be good if we got somebody like that who could speak really well, knows football and stuff. I know Souness, for all of his faults and quotes, has very much said there's not a lot of football people on the board. It'd be interesting whether we could do something like that. But who knows? Just have to watch this space over the next few weeks and see whether he comes in. But if it is Jim Gillespie that comes in, then best of luck to him. I think that's what we've got to do at the moment. Is we've just got to knuckle down and get behind everything where and when we can.
Yeah, absolutely. On you go, Reiss.
But I think the exact quote for Souness on TalkSport the other day was that ship has sailed and he's no interest in taking a job at Rangers anymore, which was a bit surprising, but makes you wonder what's he seen behind the scenes that we've not seen.
I think that's fair in terms of the ship has sailed. I think the ship has sailed for many people on Graham Souness getting back involved with the club anyway, so I don't think that's too much of a surprise, and he must be he's into his late 60s now. Anyway, it might be a bit harsh, he might be mid 60s, but he's definitely up for retirement soon anyway. So
I think he's into his 70s. I think you've done him a favour. I think so.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's end the podcast on a positive note. We'll just finish with Derek H's comment here. He said, only came across this pod recently and subscribed. Great content and opinions. Well done, lads. Thank you very much, Derek, and thank you very much for subscribing to the pod. If you do enjoy the content, please drop a like on the video. It helps us massively. Also, make sure you subscribe to the TII YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your audio content, whether that be Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere else, and you will make sure you don't miss a single episode or a single pod that we put out. All it's left me to do is thank both Reiss and JB for joining us on the podcast, and thank you very much everyone for listening. Until next time, goodbye.